I study malaria primarily in the Amazon, and what happens with climate change, you get changing temperatures on the ground, you get changing patterns of rainfall. That affects where mosquitoes can grow. It affects when mosquitoes can grow and how long their lives last. Climate change influences transmission on a local scale, but also large regional scales. If you move the season earlier and you expand the season, you get more cases of malaria. And that's primarily caused by an earlier wet season, which means you have an earlier time of when transmission occurs. The other thing that climate change does with malaria is that it really influences how people move across a landscape, especially in the Amazon, since migration and mobility is highly tied to river heights. So that can control how much migration occurs on a landscape, which is directly related to how much malaria you view and observe in one particular area versus another. Climate migrants are escaping an area not because of a political or a violent threat, but because they can't create a livelihood to survive. And so they're making these choices to hike through really harsh conditions to get out and try to make a better life. We need to better understand why climate migration is occurring. And from a health perspective, we need to do a better job of providing health care to refugee camps to make sure that they're receiving the care that they need. One Health is a really important way of viewing how we as humans are tied together with the environment. So things that happen in any one of those realms, any of the human, animal, environment realm, impacts the other two and is applied to things like infectious disease, it's applied to chronic diseases, it's applied to animal health, it's applied to understanding ecosystem health. Once that mercury gets released into the environment because of poor mining practices, it goes into an aquatic environment, and when you get more flooded plains, more flooded regions which are driven by climate changes that are seasonal, mercury is now accumulated up the food chain, and we're going to have more and more fish species, not just in freshwater environments, but in ocean environments, that are going to be impacted and affected by mercury pollution. Climate change impacts the way we grow food, corn, rice, things like that. That's definitely a threat. How we produce fish, where we find our proteins, all those things are a huge challenge for us with climate change. So I think we've already seen globally that if we try to get together across all nations, that's a really difficult task. I think that it's something that has to be done. The Paris Climate Agreement was one step. We have to come together and do a better job from a global governance point of view to combat climate change.